Brown here with you, along with Brendan Martin, on a Tuesday morning in Memphis, rainy and cold. Kind of think that it's that way throughout the southeast in a lot of areas, but
Rainy
we
and
got a
cold. I mean, it's rainy and cold here, Rob.
not in
It
Ocala,
feels. It feels. No, it's overcast here now.
overcast, but it's always a little warmer down there. But look,
Well, yeah.
got a stacked
Florida.
lineup. Brendan, Jordan Davis Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. Jacques Doucet down in Baton Rouge, WAFB Channel 9. We'll
Jacques
check him right up there.
Doucet. Love
Jacques
that guy.
Doucet. Yep, and Siri calls him Chuck. You have to say it very carefully when you send a message, an audio text. Hey, Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, checking in on Ole Miss, and Rodney Orr, Tider Insider on Alabama. So, hey, get your phone out, take a picture of the QR code, and you can take that and be a subscriber. YouTube, X, Facebook. We're on 7 channels simultaneously streaming. So if you don't catch us live, remember, you can always watch us later at your leisure. So
At your leisure.
It's your
on
leisure.
Your own schedule.
Yeah, it's your schedule. And you've been in hospital on holiday.
Yeah. With some aluminium.
I love it. So remember, share the show, and hey, get pen and paper handy. Start taking notes, because we're about to start class with our first guest, Jordan Davis Hill. And Jordan, we got this basketball race going on right now. I watched Georgia playing, against Mississippi State Saturday. They're getting to the point where it's hard to beat Georgia. Asa Newell's one piece to the puzzle, but recruiting, give us a quick update on basketball recruiting at Georgia. Then I want to talk some football with you. But this basketball thing with Mike White in, year 3 now, starting to make noise.
Yeah, on the recruiting side, I think they signed 3 guys back in November. The biggest one, quite literally, Jacob Wilkins. If you recognize that last name, he's Dominique's son. And very, very much a big-time get for Georgia. Been kind of quiet other than that on the recruiting side. But, Georgia, has been holding its own. I thought that was a tough loss, 76-75 at home to Mississippi State on Saturday. That was one I thought they really needed. Wouldn't necessarily call it a must-win, but I will say, they play Texas A&M 9 p.m. Eastern time tip. Not real thrilled about that, but at least I get, it's in College Station. It's at 8 p.m. local, so I'll let that one pass. But no, on Saturday they host Missouri. I think Georgia's got to have that one if they're going to make the NCAA tournament. I think they need to get to at least 7 SEC conference wins before the tournament. Right now they're 4-7. They got to have at least 7. They'd feel a lot better if they had 8. They would take a big step toward getting to at least 7 if they could beat Missouri at home on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's why the tournament's so important coming up in Nashville. And I think that is going to be one of the toughest SEC tournament tickets ever. Maybe the toughest ever if you look at the prices that are out there. But you've got a chance. You've got 7 conference games left plus the tournament. So I think Georgia gets to at least 7, and then you look at how competitive they are. I mean, they're going to be worthy of it. Football wise, right now in recruiting in the state of Georgia, I'm curious. There's so much talent there. About 250 kids a year are signing Division I. Yesterday on the show, Coach Ellis Johnson told us something that it didn't surprise me, but the number did. He said, in talking with coaches, and he said it on the show, so I will never disclose anything said OTR, Burns High School over in South Carolina, we all know about that big school, said the coaches there are seeing 60% fewer visits from the college coaches now. And that's part of the portal effect and whatever like that. Are you hearing similar stories within the great state of Georgia, which is pushing 11.5 to 12 million citizens?
Well, I think it's just part of it for, across the country, because it's just the nature of how much time college coaches are, investing in the portal. Now, I say that, you look at a program like Georgia, they're still gung-ho on high school recruiting. I think Kirby having been a player, having grown up and spent so much of his childhood in Georgia, that, he wants to let high school recruiting be the driving force and the main factor in the way Georgia builds its roster, and then you go supplement your needs through the portal. And we saw them do that again this year, going and getting 3 wide receivers, getting ready for 2025, a position of real need for Georgia. I think it's a situation where, yeah, I mean, you're going to see more high school guys missed because, so many of these programs want to look toward the portal to get guys there. I do think it's a shame. I just hope that, the majority of coaches take the approach that Kirby does. Now, he does have the luxury of having built what he's built, where, when you recruit top 3, top 5 classes every year, you don't necessarily have to go get 15 guys out of the portal.
Right.
Not every team has that luxury, but I hope at least the main players understand that high school recruiting still needs to be the through line, the bloodline of college football, and the less portal. I know why people recruit the portal, but for me, for the health of the sport from the top down to the high school levels, I hope the majority of coaches still really put a big emphasis on high school recruiting.
Yeah, and what I do is I have a 3-tiered look at it. You got Lane Kiffin, who will take the kids in Mississippi, and then he goes hard after kids after a year or two in college, says, okay, I've seen them develop. I'll take them. He doesn't like to recruit from 8th grade on up. Then you got Kirby that takes maybe half a dozen a year and says, I love my kids. And then Dabo Swinney, who is taking a couple here, but had been adamantly opposed to using the portal. So is there any other approach that you've seen besides those 3?
No, I feel like that kind of covers all 3 of them. And I think that, at times it's really easy to think that, like with Dabo, I think even when Clemson wasn't signing guys, that he was pretty adamant that he wasn't just totally, it's never going to happen. And you saw that a few years ago. I think that was the 2022 season for Georgia. But the offseason before the 2022 season, Georgia didn't get anybody from the portal. And a lot of people came out and said, like, oh, look how Georgia, they're not a portal team. They're not going to go get guys. And Kirby was like, look, there were guys that we wanted in the portal. It just didn't work out. We're not necessarily totally against it. So, we're still a few years into it, and I think we've got more of a sample size. But I think sometimes it's easy to say, like, Kirby Smart, totally against the portal. That's not necessarily the case. They had an off season where they didn't go get anybody. Things just didn't work out. We're getting more of a sample size where we can kind of put the coaches in those 3 categories you were talking about, Rob.
Yeah, and I think he's so good at recruiting. He's an elite recruiter, and he really doesn't have to. But if, as he says, there's 5 or 6 guys out there that fit what we do, they have to fit all the, check all the boxes. I think that's the smartest approach of those 3 I mentioned. I think it's the smartest approach. Okay.
Well, I think, yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
No, finish. Yeah.
I was just going to say, yeah, and again, I think it is fair to point out that they are coming from a spot where their roster is in the shape it is. There are teams that I know can't kind of have to go to the portal out of necessity. I mean, Georgia, as much as Kirby is never satisfied with the depth on the roster, especially now in the portal where, look at this offseason, you lose a guy like Sam Mpemba, an outside linebacker who's probably at least your backup outside linebacker this year. Well, he's gone. Justin Rhett would have been, probably your 2nd or 3rd string star. He leaves for Nebraska. You don't have that depth. But even then, as much as Kirby, I'm sure, is upset with the depth, the team from a depth standpoint, I'd say about 90% of the other coaches in college football would kill to have that lack of depth that Georgia's had, because they still have a really good spot in terms of depth.
Because they're 83% of the roster is 4- and 5-star players. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia are 1, 2, and 3 in that blue chip index. I like to look at that, and I think that's something 24/7 puts out. All right, before you go, I wanted to get into, because I know you got a tight schedule today, the Philadelphia Eagle / Dogs. I was talking to Jeff Boone, my friend, in my hunting club yesterday. We were trying to go to lunch at a place. We didn't realize it was closed on Monday. He's got dog stuff all over his office. He's from Atlanta. Brother had a bar in Athens, so you know the drill. He's been there forever and won't ever leave. But I said, how many guys on that team? 5 starters on the defense from Georgia. Name them real quick. And are you shocked at this?
Not really. I mean, I had the Eagles win. I didn't have them winning like that. But yeah, you got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and then the other two, not necessarily starters. Nakobe Dean had been a starter. He was hurt. He wasn't in the Super Bowl. And then Lewis Seen is a guy there's actually six. So Lewis isn't one of the guys that started, but Keely Ringo. So they had
Yes.
six guys. So like you said, that was five. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Davis had a sack. Nolan Smith didn't have any tackles, but I don't know if y'all saw any of the highlights they posted of him blowing up. It was either a tight end or a pulling guard. I mean, Nolan, I thought, that Nolan, this is his second year with the Eagles. That playoff, he really came on. I mean, I think he played to the point that he finally was looking like a first round pick. And he didn't necessarily record the stats against the Chiefs, but he brought the pressure and he had a big effect on how that defensive line played. I mean, I know it's hard when it comes to naming Super Bowl MVPs and how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't necessarily one defender, but if there was a way you could have just said Eagles defensive line is the MVP, that to me would have been the true accurate way to give the MVP award. They just affected Pat Mahomes. He didn't have time. And they caused real issues, and they had a lot to say in being able to win that Super Bowl.
Jordan, the one thing funny when Jordan,
how many players from Georgia were in the Super Bowl? 4.
So you
5,
had
6.
those. So the guys who actually were able to play would have been 5, and then there were a couple guys on the Chiefs, but they weren't available. Mecole Hardman's been hurt, and Malik Herring is inactive. So both teams had their share, but the Eagles, they got 6 guys, and I guess, like I said, 4 of them
That's
were
crazy.
actually able to play.
Just think about that between Florida and Georgia. Well, that's like 10, 12, 13 guys in the Super Bowl. I think it was. Florida had
crazy.
Yeah. You're muted, Rob.
Yeah. Just those 2 schools. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Florida was. I can count 5 or 6.
And think about Howie Roseman's a Florida guy.
Yeah.
And I always think about when Nolan was drafted, they put out a video of, Howie, I'm paraphrasing him, was like, I hate drafting you Georgia guys just because he went to Florida. And Nolan responds, he's just laughing, he goes, yeah, man, but you want to win. And if any clip has ever proven correct, it was that one between Nolan and Howie Roseman.
Wow. Remember when Jordan Davis came out of high school in Charlotte? He was a 2-star, 6'7" guy. He was really a basketball guy. But I'll say this: the smart coaches, you love basketball players if they're defensive linemen because of skills and quickness, and also soccer players if they do it.
Before you go, Jordan, I want to know. Here's a good view, Rob. Quiz for Duck. How many former SEC players were in the Super Bowl? I mean, I just looked at this. It's not totally accurate because I just AI'd some of this, but I mean, how many? What would you guess? It was more than I thought.
I have no idea. I'd say 20.
It's pretty good, Rob.
I'm going to say 27.
33.
Good.
33 or 34.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's according to Grok on Twitter, which look it up. But which took place February 9th between Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia. There were 34 former SEC football players on the active roster for both teams, according to the information in the Southeastern Conference.com. This number reflects players from current SEC schools, showcasing the conference stronger than representing the NFL. So there you go. That's a lot.
Yeah. Jordan, I love hearing that. All right, Jordan, tell people how they can follow you because, again, you constantly are putting out great content. You got a great podcast. You put out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, dogs247.com, on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at dogs247. Got the Junkyard Dogcast podcast. We'll record that at 12 p.m. Eastern time. You can go over to our YouTube and watch that. And yeah, getting ready for a long night. Like I said, 9 p.m. Eastern time tip against A&M. We'll have the Georgia basketball coverage. And I was looking today, we are exactly a month away from the start of spring practice for Georgia. So football will be going before you know it.
We're going to make it.
I believe in us. I believe in us.
Hey, man, thank you so much always for retweeting the show, and we will do whatever we can for you as well. But see you next week. Thank you. All right, Jacques Doucet. Jacques, Siri, we got to get Siri trained better. I was trying to do some audio text driving over the bridge from Memphis yesterday on the Mississippi, and it keeps calling you Chuck. So my apologies. And I sent you a deal. I always say Jacques Doucet. It's a very easy name to pronounce, but thanks for checking in with us this morning. I was talking to one of my LSU friends yesterday, J.M. Huffman, fanatical LSU guy, works out at Hewlett and Dunn. What's going on down there with the football program? We have Coach John Brady on Wednesdays with us talking a lot of basketball, and we'll get to them in a second. But football-wise, Brian Kelly goes into year 4. Nussmeier's back, and he's regarded by a lot of people as one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, I think he is the favorite at this point to win the Heisman Trophy. I think the betting odds have him number 1, which is kind of similar to what happened with Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels was number 2 going into 2023, and nobody really believed that. But I think there's a lot of excitement after what LSU did in the transfer portal in terms of addressing their needs at wide receiver, offensive line, getting Nussmeier to come back. That was the biggest thing that they've pulled off so far, is getting a veteran quarterback to come back. And now it's year 4 of Brian Kelly. They've been good. They haven't been great. I don't know how much pressure is on Brian Kelly when your contract is guaranteed and you're going to make 90, 100 million, no matter how many games you win, unless, there's some sort of indiscretion or, fire with cause type thing. Yeah. But, they're going to open up the season at Clemson. That's going to be a huge non-conference season opener for LSU. LSU hasn't won a season opener, as we talked about ad nauseum, since 2019 when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson were out there. So there's a lot of excitement. Just before I came on with you, I was reading The Advocate, put an article out kind of releasing all the money numbers from LSU. And, LSU as an athletic department, total cleared only $1.7 million. So they took in like $220 million overall and spent like $218 and change, this whole thing. So LSU, like the other teams in the SEC, is a big fat cat, but yet only cleared, less than $2 million as an athletic department, which goes to show you that this NIL and this other stuff, it's just not, it's not sustainable. I don't think, people just think LSU is just rolling in tens of millions of dollars, and it's just not the case. And so, that's where we're at right now, and paying players, and a lot of coaches exhausted with it. And, it's not my favorite, but it is what it is at the moment. So, I heard your last guest say that spring football is about to start for them. I think LSU starts March the 8th, and I think the spring game is April the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, here in Baton Rouge. And it's been 83 degrees outside lately. It's been feeling a lot more like May than it has February.
I bet you got some awesome video of the snow that hit there just a few weeks ago. That was absolutely amazing. We have friends in Lake Charles, a couple of them in our hunting club, and they were just, it was a trip. I think they got 7 inches. And all the Steins, they have their stores all over the state, and they were loving it. Probably sold a few sleds, but if they probably had to get them FedExed in. But Jacques, you talk about LSU. Isn't this amazing? Joe Burrow comes in. First year, 54% passer. The next year, 78.6. He wins the Heisman. 5,700 yards passing in 2019. Jaden Daniels comes in. Arizona State. My son was reminding me, his teammates packed his stuff and said, you ain't the man. He goes to LSU and wins the Heisman Trophy. NFL Rookie of the Year. What is it? And that's not with the same coach. That's 2 different coaches that they pulled this off. And then you look at the top 4 or 5 receivers, all grew up within 100 miles of each other. How much fun is your job?
Yeah, that's great. The Super Bowl obviously was down in New Orleans, and I didn't really deal with a whole lot of that. I kind of got my taste of it a little bit. The the 23-year-old version of myself and the 48-year-old version of myself are a little different when it comes to traffic and security and just the mess and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Justin Jefferson put on a football camp at his alma mater, high school, Destrehan there. And I went down and chatted with him on Thursday of last week, and that was fun. And we were just talking about, the two trios of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, who played together in 2019, and then Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas, who played together in 2023. I mean, those two trios alone are now both tearing it up in the NFL. And, LSU for a long time was not regarded as a place that developed quarterbacks. It was very good at quarterback. It was always the thing that held them back when they played Nick Saban in Alabama every year. It seemed like LSU was kind of on par with Alabama in a lot of other spots, but the QB position, they never could come through. And so now, you had two Heisman Trophy winners in 2019, 2023, 4 or 5 years there. And now Garrett Nussmeier had a solid year. He did not have an amazing year, but his first year of a starter, I think, was better than both Burrow and Daniels was when they started. So, there's a lot of great hope that he can take them at least to the playoffs this year. And he's got a big arm. He's not a ton. He doesn't like to run a whole lot, but, he comes from his father, Doug Nussmeier, of course, just coaching with the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And Kellen Moore, I guess, waiting any time now for him to be named the Saints head coach as the Eagles offensive coordinator. But, LSU and Joe Sloan, they would like to hear that a lot and would like us to put that out in recruiting. Let people know that LSU is a place that develops quarterbacks and you can win the Heisman Trophy here.
Well, I mean, look at the two different staffs, two different coordinators, two different passing systems and all. It is nothing short of spectacular because nationally nobody else is doing that. You look at LSU basketball, I'm just watching this team play, and it just seems like they've got some guys that can shoot the ball. They've got talent. They're not deep in terms of talent, but it's almost like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. When something's going to go wrong. I mean, we all go through those times in life when you're on a team and you're just like, okay. And when something does, it's tough to recover from it. But they're not that far, but it's year 3 or 4 for the
year
new
3.
coach? Year 3. Okay.
Yeah.
McMahon.
And they're now 1-9 in the SEC.
Yeah.
And the last 2 Saturdays alone have kind of been a big blow to fans' confidence in Matt McMahon as the head coach. I think there's been this sentiment of, well, the guy's probably a good coach, but he doesn't have the talent. And LSU's investing less than $2 million in the roster when Auburn's investing $8 million and Alabama's investing a lot of money and Tennessee and LSU's being left behind. But, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, you're playing Texas, who's got a losing record in the SEC. LSU's a 1.5-point underdog. It's a game at home. It's a game that you should win, and a 6-point game at halftime becomes a 31-point loss. I mean, that kind of shows that the coach is not motivating the players, maximizing the talent, that kind of thing. And then this past Saturday, LSU plays probably their best game in SEC play for 36 minutes against Ole Miss, a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
And they've got a 10-point lead with 3 minutes left. And they just die on the vine. I think, I don't know if they got up one shot or no shots in the final 3 minutes, missed free throws, turned the ball over. And as somebody told me, they were not coached to finish the game. And then that's another detriment against, your coach. And so those 2 losses alone just look really bad. And, McMahon, I think a lot of people like him and are rooting for him, but in year 3, this team is going to have to hustle just to make the NIT. So, and with women's basketball, soaring to new heights and since Kim Mulkey took over, they're 5th in the country. They're 25-1. Baseball starts Friday, and we know about LSU baseball and the interest there. Gymnastics is coming off a national title. They're number 2 in the country. They're hosting number 1 Oklahoma this week. The other sports are just so great that it's almost to a point where, we suck at men's basketball. We can't be good at everything. But in that same report that I just referenced, men's basketball is the only other sport, despite the losing, that makes money. They cleared $1 million last year somehow. Yeah. So some people say, Well, Kim Mulkey's record is 116-15 so far at LSU. But people say the sport lost $8 million last year. You're investing more into a sport that loses $8 million than a sport that makes $1 million. So that's money, but yeah, it's not good. And apathy, Rob, has really set in with men's basketball.
You're looking
Bring back Will Wade. That's all. That's what they're saying.
God almighty. Yeah, he's got it going at McNeese. He's got $1.5 million, I think, in NIL. I don't know if these numbers are accurate. I think it's I mean, having, kids, I know this, if you say, you've got $100 in your wallet, they're going to find something that costs $100. So you got to be careful about letting the world know how much NIL money you got. But, you mentioned Ohio State. They spent allegedly $20 million plus on their roster, but the overall athletic department is down this year, $37 million deficit. And it's getting to be like government agencies. These are state universities, state government run, and they're spending money. And you're right, it is absolutely unsustainable. No business can continue to lose money. I'm in that business. I look at every dollar I spend. I got to have receipts. I got to have accountability. The dots have all got to be connected. And you look at a stock, you look at a money manager that you're using. If they're not producing, sequentially quarter after quarter, you fire them and you get new ones. And if a sport is losing money, obviously you get new coaches. But you know what? With that House settlement likely coming in April, we don't know if it's going to be in favor of a good or a bad decision. But that's like a $21 million tax added to a buyout if you get rid of a coach. And I think that's why. Can you remember a year with no coaching turnover in SEC football? People are holding on to these guys now. They'd rather go spend $2 or $3 million on some hotshot coordinator than start a new coaching thing. Make that coach kind of a figurehead and then have other coaches around him. And that's not new.
Well, you referenced John Brady. I had a nice sit down with him last week, and we were chatting about things around the SEC. And he said Nate Oates there, who's obviously done an amazing job at Alabama, they were talking about, hey, coach, we're going to invest such and such and get a new arena. And he's like, no, we don't need take that money and invest it into the roster. It used to be.
That's right.
It used to be, oh, we play in a dump. Oh, no one's going to want to come here. Kids don't care about that now. It's just all about how much money can I make. I don't care if your place was built in 1953 or whatever. I'll go play there if the money's right. And so I think that's another thing. Facilities, people always, we got to have facilities to recruit and this and that. I guess it's important to an extent, but not nearly what it used to be.
Yeah. I think the brick and mortar model, Florida, the Hefner Center, Auburn, the Spaceship Enterprise opened up here in the last couple of years. Both spent a ton of money on them. So what? Again, the conversation that a recruit has, there's two questions, two words, how much before they leave. And again, Notre Dame, their facilities weren't that great for a long time in football, but it was the Notre Dame education and all that goes with it. I think you're dead on. And these schools that you say, well, they have all this money, but you're only going to be able to go to your investors so long without a return on investment and keep beating on them for money, because that's just that's how people are. And so the collective, I think a lot of collectives are going to fold if the House settlement goes the other way, because they'll say, well, look, there's 21 million coming in right there. So it's going to be, I think that's the free market will take care of this stuff. Jacques, John Brady is so good with basketball. You're right. And you are in such an enviable position where you are, getting to talk to all these people. I think he'd be great on SEC Network. They need a coach up there, Brady he is funny, but he's so damn smart. And you can tell he's got that intense. You watched him take that team to the Final Four. I think 6 of the kids, the top 6 all grew up within 50 or 60 miles. Napoleonville, Denham Springs, East St. John Reserve. That's a special place down in LSU.
Yeah, it's crazy. They just celebrated the 25-year anniversary of his Sweet 16 team in 99, 2000. Next year is going to be the 20-year anniversary of LSU's Final Four team in 2006. LSU's only been in the Final Four 3 times since 1981. Darrell Brown went in 81 and 86. And then you're right, that 2006 LSU team was like a Louisiana AAU team that grew up. And you're talking about Glenn Big Baby Davis and Garrett Temple from U High. Garrett Temple's still in the NBA. He'd be the guy that you'd point to and say, wait, he's going to have the longest career. But in the Sweet 16 game against Duke, in which the biggest win of John Brady's career, Duke was the #1 team in the tournament. JJ Redick, Coach JJ, Sheldon Williams and company. Garrett Temple held JJ Redick to 3 of 18 from the field in that game. Then you had guys, like Tyrus Thomas, who went to McKinley High School here, became a top 4 NBA draft pick. Daryl Mitchell from St. Martinville hit the big second-round shot against Texas A&M, and team, beat Texas in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four, and then in Indianapolis they just didn't show up against UCLA, got smothered. But yeah, that was a fun time to cover that team, and LSU just cannot get it right with basketball. Even when they get it right, and they get Will Wade in place, and the big crowds come back, and they're in the NCAA tournament. Will Wade produced an NCAA product 4 times, and he only coached once in the NCAA tournament. He was suspended the first time around. Yeah. COVID came in 2020. That team would have made the tournament. He coached one season, and then he got suspended in his last year, and then got fired. So just a very odd stay for Will Wade. And, a lot of fans say, well, everything he got in trouble for, and look, he had bad luck for an FBI wiretap to catch him talking about that stuff, but everything he did is legal now. Bring him back. So I don't know if those two could go to the altar again. Will Wade might say, I've been there, done that. And LSU would be like, I don't know if we could, bring him back, but a lot of fans would like to see it.
I mean, why not? In the world we live in today in college athletics, Brendan, would you make a strong ass offer to Will Wade?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's a hard. I'm all about the person, right? You can have all the talent in the world, as my dad would say, but if you're a cancer in the locker room or whatever, then you're not worth your weight, at all. And I think that's, I don't know. It's such a weird landscape, Jacques. How can you explain to me this basketball phenomenon, that basketball LSU's making money, that they continuously find a way to do this? We were discussing this before with Rob, and it just seemed like basketball's figured out a lot faster than football on how to turn over on these teams, and how to get these players, and how to get these guys to come play for you.
Well, I mean, Mulkey's figured it out. The men haven't figured it out. Once they got Angel Reese, they told me this young lady is special. She's going to be a difference maker. And sure enough, she was the biggest piece of a national title. The transfer portal is, I don't like it in terms of, I don't feel like I get to know these guys, and you get to know the girls because they're staying. Flajay Johnson's going to play 4 years. Michaela Williams is going to play 4 years. The guys, it's like, okay, we're throwing a group of guys together, and then in 3 months they're going to be gone, and then we're going to throw another group. I mean, you don't really get to know them. The senior day rolls around. It's like, okay, I've been covering this guy for 3 months. I mean, it's not like Ricky Blanton and Rudy Macklin and all these players that they were on your heart because you'd watched them for 4 years and they hit game-winning shots and done stuff. It's just it's just what it is, and in the NCAA tournament, I guess you could argue is still the greatest sporting event on planet Earth, with the last-second endings and everything. But, it's not the heyday of Shaq playing 3 years and Christian Laettner and, your UNLV running Rebels with Larry Johnson and all that, when you had true stars that played for 3 or 4 years. That's long, long gone.
Right. Well, if you've got records, all-time leading rusher, passer, scorer in basketball, whatever, you're probably going to keep them now, because nobody's going to stick around that long. It's not likely that they will. And I'm with you. I mean, I remember Harvey Williams, Hempstead, Texas. I remember that You remember guys like Kevin Falk, Lafayette, Karen Crow, at Hokie Gajan. I think Nicky Savoy. Remember Nicky Savoy?
Yeah, I saw him the other day.
Yeah, he's on. I think he's a bond trader with Raymond James. I'm pretty sure he is. He was on the trading desk at Morgan Keegan for a while because one of my friends, he goes, Bobby, he goes, I love calling my guys in Louisiana Nicky Savoy. But those guys are everything that is LSU. And again, I go to Mass at St. Louis Catholic Church in Memphis. There's LSU people everywhere. There's so many Louisianians up here, and it's awesome. But Jacques, we got to get you on more often. I know you got a busy schedule, but I want to compliment you. You got maybe the best background of anybody. It's really good. And you're in TV. You're a beat news director there at Channel 9. And if a young reporter wants to be mentored by somebody, I would send them your way because you do it right. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And also let people know how they can follow you. And we got to do it again next week.
Yeah, appreciate it. WAFB.com. You can find me. My Twitter got hacked a couple months back. I took over a different Twitter that's got a lot less followers and everything. But just look for me, Jacques Doucet. That's my name, is right there on Twitter. You can follow me and Facebook and whatnot. And it's never slow in Baton Rouge, and it's really about the period from like mid-February through March is just insanity with LSU and Southern, the amount of sports both of them play, and then your high school March Madness, and state soccer semifinals are next week and finals. It's a lot happening here for three guys to cover, but we're going to do our best. So,
all right, thank you, man. Go Tigers!
Thank you. All right, go Tigers.
Thanks, Jack.
I tell you what, I love that.
Brendan, it was always fun. It was fun running into him on the sidelines this year. At LSU game in Florida. He's a good dude.
He is. Hey, I'll tell you, I was telling you and your dad on the show last week, driving back from Auburn to Lake Martin, listening to that LSU at Florida game last year, that reminded me of the heyday of Florida football. That just listening to what is it Sean? The play-by, I was listening to Shane Matthews, but your play-by-play guy, is his last name Price?
It's new. He's a new guy. Play-by-play for UF. No, I don't remember. I don't know. He's a nice guy.
But they're really good.
Yeah, let me get his name right because I'm just bad with names, and I wanna get I'll get it right. We're getting our guests in, and I'll bring them in really fast.
All right, because we should know all these guys that are the voices.
We do. It was Mick Hubert was Mick was incredible. Oh my, he's retired.
Oh
so
my!
I know you're trying to think of that guy.
No, I know it wasn't Mick Hubert.
Mick's good. We'll find out. I'm just forgetting his name, but let's invite. I think Yancy's in.
Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline.
How's everybody doing?
Good. I'm just spinning plates and juggling things, and Rob
doing great. How about y'all?
Rob gets me a grenade. Hey, Brendan, by the way, what's going on? Oh, hey, sorry, Rob. I was just producing the show. You want me to answer a question? Sure, I got it, Rob. Hey, Brendan, you do the alphabet backwards.
You're talking to two ADHD guys, and I'm OCD, and I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I am not. I take copious amounts of medication.
Yeah,
to keep
join
up.
the crowd.
Yancy Porter, welcome to ADD Sports. How are you, sir? Yancy, you there?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Nice rainy morning. Get my kids to school and try to go make some money.
That's right. That's what makes the grass grow. Yancy, you do Rebel Yell Hotline on Monday nights on Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, and then Super Talk Mississippi all over the great state of Mississippi, from the coast to the top up in DeSoto County. What are y'all talking about right now? What's moving the needle at Ole Miss? Trending topics, what have you?
Well, Ole Miss basketball is really the topic right now. Baseball would normally be that topic, but Ole Miss actually has a basketball team to talk about right now.
Yancy, watching that game at LSU Saturday, that's Chris Beard basketball. Play every second like it's your last second. Damn, they can shoot. How do you see Ole Miss finishing out this season?
Well, I think Ole Miss feels like is kind of even out from that A&M game when they were up 8 points with a minute 08 left and lost the game. That one really stung, took the momentum away from that Bama game that they had won there at Bama. They lost 3 games in a row. So now they've won 3 games in a row. They stole one on the road like A&M did to Ole Miss, and kind of, wash your hands and move forward.
If you look at the 2 biggest wins in SEC basketball this year, I would say Florida winning at Auburn and Ole Miss winning by 10 at Alabama. That's a big victory I think you're going to get a lot of return on that investment, on that win. Talk real quick, recruiting-wise. What's Ole Miss bringing in to keep building? Because Chris Beard wakes up in the morning and says relentless before he does anything else. Because, that guy is so competitive. He wants to be first in everything. You can tell it, and look at his staff and his players, and I think it's carrying over to the fan base in Oxford.
Yeah, well, they're excited. They're recruiting a little bit higher level than what they've experienced in the past. They've got 2 top 50 national prospects that are signed that enter in the fall. One's a shooting guard that's actually Al Pinken's son, Patton Pinkins, and one's a power forward, about 6'9", 235. So they're looking at Miami center that just went into the portal. He's actually in high school, so I guess it would be the portal when you ask for a release out of your letter of intent. I think Miami changing staffs is probably, or the uncertainty around their coaching probably opened the door there. So they want to add one more big. Ole Miss is always looking for another big. So I think Beard is getting it. He's what we're seeing in this 26 class is he's recruiting some shooting guards and some guards that are 6'5", 6'7". As you know, that's kind of Ole Miss's chink in the armor right now. When you go point guard at 5'9" and your shoot guard at 6 foot, it causes some deficiencies in the backcourt, especially on defense.
Yancy, Rodney Orr should be joining us momentarily from Tider Insider. And Rodney, you're here, and good morning. Thank you for joining us here on the sidelines, Tuesday morning edition. Wow. And this is kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about all morning, SEC basketball, football. But Rodney, I know Auburn and Alabama both have games before they play Saturday, but this has got to be the first time ever that you've got a number 1 versus 2 ranking matchup in the IBOB, the Iron Bowl of basketball. It's kind of making people not forget about football, but man, how crazy will Coleman Coliseum be? Again, you got games before then, but if you've got tickets, I bet you can sell them for a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I don't have tickets, so no. It's unprecedented. There's a ton of excitement. I know over here. I know at Auburn too. Coming in here, and then when you flip the game, March 8th, I think it is, when Alabama has to go over there, it's going to be just as crazy. Oh, yeah. So what Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl have done, building these 2 programs, is this is where we are. So they've done a fantastic job on both sides, and looking forward to the game here in Tuscaloosa, because like you said, there's going to be some rock'em sock'em excitement, I think.
Yeah. And I think these 2 programs the state of Alabama in basketball right now is just off the charts. It's incredible. Before I go back to Yancy, another question. What are some stories, topics that are trending in Tuscaloosa that people should be a subscriber to Tider Insider, folks? It's only $48 a year. Cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. Dollar for dollar, penny for penny. Nobody in America covers Alabama better 365 days a year than Rodney Orr and his staff.
Well, I think, obviously basketball's, certainly among the top discussions that we're having right now on TI. But, also, again, football never goes away. It's a lot of discussion about the staff here that Kalen DeBoer is, putting together, kind of getting his staff finalized with, the addition of Ryan Grubb, and moving Nick Sheridan. Well, I say moving. He's actually going to continue to coach the quarterbacks, but he will no longer be the offense coordinator or call in play. So it's just kind of a little shuffling of the staff, a lot of discussion about that. And, I think there's a lot of excitement as people start to look forward to spring practice, which will start in less than a month. So, those are the things right now that I think are the hot topics.
Yeah. Yancy, looking at Ole Miss right now, football wise, Austin Simmons, you mentioned this is his team, but you got to have players around you. How many players in January, that was it for LSU? You had said it may be close to 41, but obviously there's turnover. Talk about some of the new faces in Oxford on football.
Yeah. Well, man, there's a lot. They lose 18 of their 22 starters. Actually, the number now is 44 newcomers in spring practice. A lot of turnover, but this is something that Lane has, this is the system that he uses. This is not unfamiliar territory for him. There's been a lot of turnover each and every year under Lane. Now, last year you had a little bit more continuity because a lot of these portals that he brought in had 2 and 3 years, and they were on year 2 or 3. Even some like Jared 4, like Jared Ivey. But it is a lot of turnover. Over half the roster obviously will be new players in spring practice, and then you lose 3-year starting quarterback there in Dart. If there was a year that you would say rebuild, it would be this year for Ole Miss, but I know that's not something that's in their eyesight. They want to win now, and that's why he continues to use the portal so heavily.
You start looking around at things, the money. We talked about Jacques Doucet was on just a minute ago from Baton Rouge. LSU guys, their athletic department brought in over $200 million last year, but they only netted profit of $1.2 million. Rodney, what numbers are you hearing from Alabama? And we know what Greg Burns said about, hey, we've got to have help. And again, it's not that they're not people with money that are Alabama supporters. They don't have to be alumni. They can just be friends of the university. But I'm telling you, being in the money management business, there's only so many times you can go to people and ask them for money if you're not showing them a positive ROI. So kind of tell the story of Alabama.
Rob, I honestly, I don't know all the numbers.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. I did reach out to someone that I really trust about 10 days ago. Alabama, the athletic department reported a $28 million loss for this last year.
Wow. Good.
And,
God.
Ohio State, I think, reported a $37 million loss.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I asked, the question, did Alabama really lose $28 million? Did the athletic department really do that? And the response was no, it didn't happen. It's a matter of accounting and how you manage it and where the money goes. And so I really don't know the exact numbers or why they're doing it that way. But I don't think their money grows on trees down here or anywhere for that matter. And I do think I do think you're right that these donors, as it was explained to me, aren't going to continue. It's not just Alabama, just everybody.
It's everywhere.
It's amazing the amount of money some of these people are putting out. On a yearly basis, and the money that's being requested of them. Think about this. You put $100,000 into football NIL or $100,000 into, and I don't know that it's exactly designated like that, but that's where it's going.
Yeah.
But you put $100,000 into football NIL. You put $100,000 into basketball NIL. You put $100,000 into Skybox. You donate to some kind of fund, Crimson Tide Fund or whatever. I'm not even sure the name of it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're out of $500,000 every year. That, your first $500,000's going to support the program.
Yeah.
And, it's just more. And these athletic directors are making more than ever. These coaches are making more than ever. Assistant coaches are making. Heck, I remember when a guy named Jody Allen made $35,000 a year at Ole Miss in the 1980s.
Yeah.
As an assistant coach. And, these guys, $35,000. Are you kidding me? They're making that in a week.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Rodney, you go back, Ralph Jordan Jr. is a friend of mine. He said when his dad at Auburn, I think the last year or two he was there, he was making $55,000 or $60,000 a year as the coach at Auburn. I think Coach Bryant was making, I don't know, probably not a whole lot more.
Well, Coach Bryant said his salary was $99,000, and the only reason he didn't make $100,000 was because if he did, he'd be making the same as the president of the university.
Oh, wow. I mean, Yancy, and Rodney, we hear these numbers, and you pick the university, and I'm gonna, in all fairness, Rodney, you're right, and Yancy, guys, we all know people that have plenty of money, but they're very judicious in how they spend it. They'll support something for a little while, but they want to see a return on it, and that's what I'm talking about with all these players. And then there's brick and mortar, the Rodney Orr Center for Journalistic Excellence, or the Yancy Porter Center for Culinary Design. That's the kind of stuff that you got to have. You got to have people. There's only so many of these people that we're going to be able to go to. I think we're at a tipping point right now, Yancy.
Yeah, I was just kind of daydreaming about what my wife would say if I blew up $500,000 on football players.
Oh, God. Woo!
I don't know about yours, but mine starts showing me her teeth the less money I make. So
Yeah.
$500,000, I'd probably have a divorce within a week.
Oh,
But yeah. There's only so many times you can go back to the well, right? It gets old. Look, we've seen this though for many, many years. It used to just be under the table. Now it's above the table. Universities have burned their same alumni for money for recruiting since recruiting started, since football started. So it's nothing new, but it's more rampant. It's more people involved. I do think the collectives help a little bit because you're getting money taken out every month. And they're not coming up to you saying, "Hey, we need $50,000." One time. It's more sophisticated, more fundraising. You can go out and be open about it. It's a lot different now. But yeah, you're gonna have to show a good product to continue to get these alumni to come off that kind of money.
You really are, and I want to say something real quick. Too, and we're going to say something about our sponsors. One of them, LandersFordMemphis.com, folks. Whatever time of year, it's never a bad time to invest in a great new vehicle. Cars, trucks, SUVs, huge lot, popular Houston Levy out in Collierville. LandersFordMemphis.com, the number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South. Brad Bellamy, the general manager, will walk you through the whole process. Give them a call. Let them know you heard about them on SEC Sideline Sports. Great folks to work with. Lots of savings opportunities available for people who are in the market. Look at these President's Day opportunities. I don't like to use the word deal because they consistently offer fair pricing and a great service department that picks you up and takes you every day. And on top of that, right down the street, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. And I know I'm going fast, but I was out there yesterday. They're having a 50% off sale. They've got Duck Camp, Ariat, Pendleton, great looking clothes. A lot of them on the 50% off sale. And I'm wearing a vest today from Duck Camp. Great looking gear. Hewlett and Dunn, they're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Got my wife, Audrey, a great looking pair of boots made out of ostrich. Beautiful looking pair of boots for her Valentine's. She got it last night. She couldn't wait. But go out there, let them know you heard about it on Sidelines, HewlettandDunn.com. Guys, I think that both of y'all know this. We love history, traditions, and heroes. Rodney, can you reel off as quickly today as you could 6, 10, 15 years ago, the roster, the starting lineup of Alabama's football team, their heights and weights and hometowns? Because nowadays it's like these guys are coming through for an audition. Like we watched The Voice last night, and man, you don't even get all the chairs turned around, and they're gone.
Well, let me tell you, you say that about the roster, and then I have to kind of laugh because it makes me think about a story I told in my book, and that is that when I was a junior in high school, I was a high school flunky. Okay, I mean,
Oh, come on. Never.
total flunky.
I ain't
I got to
buying it,
admit,
Yancy.
look, I grew up 15 minutes from the beach. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So it was easy to skip math class 25 days and biology class 26 days my senior year, to go to the beach, to
Yeah.
cut out early. But anyway, I say all that to say this, I'll never forget. And I went and got a poster board from Kroger. I don't know if there's any Krogers up there where you are, but I went and got a
Everywhere.
poster board from Kroger, and I took the Liberty Bowl roster, since we're speaking of Memphis. I took the Liberty Bowl roster. Alabama played UCLA that year.
76.
And 1 through 99 with a red felt pen, I put the number, the name, the size, the position, and their hometown on a big white poster board. I did the entire Alabama roster 1 to 99. I pinned it on my door. I probably know that roster better than I know the one now.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, honestly, I mean, these rosters change so fast now with the portal. I mean, it's just like recruiting. I mean, look, why do you get excited over a commitment? Number one, especially one this early, because the NIL deals are going to be coming out, and there's going to be guys flipping and all that stuff. And even if you get a guy now, you don't know how long you're going to have him. Alabama had Julian Say in 2 weeks. Think
It was
about
a hell
that.
of a 2 weeks, though.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just saying all of this stuff has just changed so much. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I honestly, I've had a lot of people that have been longtime members of Tighter Insider email me and say, I say a lot. I've had some members of Tighter Insider email me and say, look, you know what? I just don't like the way it is anymore. It's drained my enthusiasm. I'm not going to contribute to Tide Pride anymore. I'm not going to, just because first of all, I don't believe in this system. Number one, don't believe in paying these players like this. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pay it out of my own pocketbook. So I don't have a lot of interest in it anymore. I mean, so I do think while there's still people may say, oh, the ratings are this and the ratings, there are people that are losing. And I think maybe older generation, maybe 45, 50 and up. And I'm not saying you completely give it up, but I think there are some people who are doing that because they just don't, their enthusiasm has been stripped.
Well, Yancy, are you hearing similar stories at Ole Miss?
Apparently not.
Yeah. Yeah. He said he was having some technical problems, but I'll say this: that is a problem, and we better address that because I've been to a lot of games over the years, and I can remember, like you say, the heights, the weights, we bonded. That's how we bonded with our schools. Okay, Brendan.
Yeah.
And when I'm on the Buddy Martin show, God, it is so much fun at night on this channel, Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Buddy and Franz and Ben Troop and Lauren Meadows, of course, and Brendan, and Allie Peak Wilbur. She's on different Gators. Man, we get into a lot of the history, and these games, and the people that played them, and we're going to start doing more living history SECU podcast. Brendan and Buddy and me, Buddy's incredible stories that he can tell. And let me say something about Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. Athens, Alabama, on the top of the state, right next to Huntsville, open every day of the week. They got over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in the store. All the gear, big Sitka dealer. They're looking to grow in the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. That store in Auburn is going to open up in June, maybe earlier, but they just are looking at a location in the Memphis market right now. Athens, Georgia, Fayetteville. Look, if it's in the SEC footprint, Winter Timber is probably coming to your area. Rodney, you nailed it. And I think about this. I was with a bunch of my Alabama friends. I took them hunting a few weeks ago up here. Everybody, we want to get back to talking about the games. So tell a cool bit of history about Alabama that people might not know that'll remind them of why we love these schools so much, and that this storm too shall pass that we're going through. I always honestly believe, or I don't say it, that it will, because I'm a free market guy. But a cool story about Alabama that'll pull people in, and then let them know again how they can subscribe to you, and we'll wrap it up.
Well, Rob, I don't know. Off the top of my head, what I would say is this. You hope that we do somehow get a grip on all this stuff, and that we can kind of, I know it's all about moving forward, but
Yeah.
I think you have to sometimes move backwards a little bit, and that is moving forward. Sometimes going backwards is moving forward.
Correct.
And so I kind of think that, but the only thing I can say is, Rob, is, there was a time when, people said Alabama football was dead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that, when you had Dubose, you had Franchione bolted on the program after 2 seasons.
Yeah.
You had Mike Price that lasted 3 months, and what a debacle that 3 months was.
Yeah.
And then Shula came in and, tried to do his best. There's no doubt about that. Just, didn't happen.
Yeah.
And, I remember that coaching search. There was a lot of people that said, Alabama can't hire a coach. Nobody wants to coach at Alabama. You're crazy if you think Nick Saban is interested in the Alabama job. And then all of a sudden, a big deal was made out of the narrative, came up that Rich Rodriguez turned Alabama down. See, we told you, nobody wants to be the Alabama coach.
Yeah, right. God. Isn't that crazy, Rodney?
No, it is crazy. And here's what it is, Rob, is the media is not what the media used to be.
Yeah.
The media used to report news. And now it's like a lot of these people, your fans. A lot of these media people are fans, or they're taking a position of just trying to stir up a group of fans.
Yeah.
And that's what it is now. That's what most of
right.
it's become. And I mean, I think that's another reason why people have lost some interest.
Well, and I'll tell you, tomorrow we'll have Dudley Dawson on here from hogville.net, and Dudley's our age, and he's a pro. He's like, hey, I'm not a fan, I'm a journalist, and that's your first responsibility. And you are the same way. And your book, Bigger Than Bama, folks, order a copy of it. It'll remind you of what life is truly about, and the people around you, you better hold them dear, and be thankful for every day. We lost Yancy, had a bad connection, but I'll say this, I'm with you. Getting to do this show is such a privilege every day. I get so excited about 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I'm ready to go. And so we're going to wrap it up now, and we'll be back tomorrow morning. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. $48 a year, Tighter Insider. Be a subscriber, folks. Great show, Rodney. Appreciate your thoughts, and we will do it again this week. Let's bet a sack full of crystals on the iBob Saturday. I'll take Auburn straight up. Okay. See ya.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.